Tokenized real-world assets are projected to grow from $0.6 trillion in 2025 to a staggering $18.9 trillion by 2033 as blockchain adoption accelerates across global finance, according to Ripple and Boston Consulting. And, we've been talking about this, we're in very early stages of tokenization. And as, more and more entities and organizations, start looking and exploring tokenizations, I think this is, where things really get exciting. And this is where Ripple comes into play. Of course, there's other, platforms, but I think, XRP Ledger is pretty much that one-stop shop, where you can get everything done at one place. And I think, it gives it a huge potential of, being used in the upcoming near future. But welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. Appreciate you guys as always, for sticking around and showing tremendous amount of love. Looking across the market, we're seeing an absolutely amazing green day, a lot of excitement. Obviously, a lot of people are getting, mega bullish on the markets once again. I'm still, having that, tariff thing, back of my mind, even though there is a pause. I still think, we need to, hear some sort of a resolution, which gets obviously published. And I think, that would be, that pivot moment, where we should start getting excited. And on top of that, obviously, if we see a rate cut, that would be amazing on top of that. But XRP is up 6.2% with the price back above $2.10. We're currently sitting at $2.15 as of recording this update. Also up 4.3% in Bitcoin. Comparative market cap at $125.4 billion, and the 24-hour trading volume at about $3.1 billion. But before we get into any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in cryptocurrencies. So, CryptoQuant reports that Bitcoin whale holdings are continuing to grow. Whales have been absorbing over 100,000 BTC since early March. Accumulation is occurring. Long-term whales, and I've said this to you guys 1,000 times. Yes, if you look at it from a short span of, like let's say your targets are in the next 6 to 12 months. Of course, market can fluctuate. But, these whales are not here for the next 6 to 12 months. They're accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible for the long term because they know how scarce this asset is. And of course, as you are seeing demand going through the roof, they know that, Bitcoin is going to be hard to obtain in the future. So very, very exciting stuff here. But moving forward, M2 global money supply ripping to the new all-time highs. It's going to trade crypto with it. And I've shared, the M2 money supply chart with you guys in I think 2 or 3 updates prior. And there is a positive correlation between Bitcoin, Bitcoin and the crypto space and the M2 money supply. So are we about to see Bitcoin really start heading towards new all-time highs? Historically speaking, like I said, if you kind of keep those M2 money supply as well as Bitcoin price, you are seeing a positive correlation. So you would expect some sort of a bounce. And right now, Bitcoin is reacting in a positive way. So is this really the reversal? Is this really the reversal? We'll see what happens. But look at this, the tokenized assets all on XRP Ledger. Speaking about tokenization, XRP will become a reserve currency asset. Remember, from Ripple, banks holding XRP, that's the holy grail. Remember, XRP can issue any other type of asset. CBDCs can be issued. That means Bank of America will create BOA coin on the XRP. Again, this is all speculation. At the end of the day, nothing is really confirmed, but we can put pieces together to really see what could become a reality in the upcoming near future. Moving forward, April 2025, this month, the European Banking Authority confirms that the new crypto asset framework is now fully implemented. Restructure really happening across the globe, not just within North America. And, across the globe, it's actually been happening much quicker. But now, under the Trump administration, you're starting to see clarity coming towards, the crypto industry. And I think this will follow, with the neighbors in Canada as well. They're about to have an election as well. And I think maybe, they start, implementing crypto strategies and, bringing regulation towards crypto industry. Because, if U.S. is going that route, I think they will also. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. But moving forward, Larry Fink, we know who that is. BlackRock CEO says tokenization of the market from stocks to bonds to real estate is coming. if we can solve one problem. If you guys want to read this chart, I would suggest you guys to read so. It is on CNBC. It's kind of long of a chart. I don't want to sit here and, kind of bore you guys, but it is very, very interesting. So, I would suggest you guys, read that. But look at this, Wisdom Tree said in 2025, XRP is the leading altcoin. Again, it has so much happening for itself. You have seen that lawsuit coming to an end. You've seen multiple different assets being, multiple different institutions coming in, and, firms that are, filing for an XRP ETF because they understand the demand factor. Because, it offers a real world use case. And, as we are going into the regulatory phase of, the crypto space, then you're going to see these regulatory approved, assets really being the more attractive option to investors, to institutions. And, as blockchain, is being adopted within infrastructures around the globe, you're going to be looking at the XRP ledger. And this is where, the excitement really comes into play. And of course, the stable coin is, the cherry on top. But, very, very exciting stuff. And I think, we're going to see, if we see an IPO, more excitement, of course, and, the approval of the ETF will, I think, just be revolutionary. So, a lot happening for itself. I'm not surprised why they think that. But let's take a look at what's happening with the price right now, and of course, what we could be expecting going into Sunday morning. Of course, you guys need to understand, we're in a weekend. On the weekends, more manipulation than usual due to CME futures being closed. But if you're looking at the dominance index, it has pulled down a little bit. Pretty much ranging sideways since this breakout up to the 64%. We've been kind of going sideways over the course of the last few days. But if you're looking at BTC, let's give it a refresh live. Bitcoin actually had an amazing day today. Went up to 86K, double top retest, saw a little bit of a rejection and seeing a little bit of a minor pullback. Of course, like I said, we're in a weekend and a little bit of a sideways momentum could be in play. And when you do see major moves like this for Bitcoin, it is normal to see a little bit of choppy levels occurring. But with that said, let's take a look at what's happening with XRP. So if you're looking at XRP's price here, you're 38.2 fib zone. So, exactly what we spoke about, did end up happening. And, what's really impressive, a lot of people will not tell you this. Not a lot of people will tell you this. I think I might be the only one here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, the price of XRP is in the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement level. I know a lot of people are going to be confused as to what I'm really trying to get at. The fact that we're in the 23.6 Fibonacci retracement level, retesting some of the levels we haven't seen since late March. What's really exciting is that, the dominance is sitting much higher compared to where we were before, and yet you're seeing the price of XRP, sitting in the 38.2. This tells me that, we will see an all-time high in the near future. I think it's inevitable that, we do see an XRP all-time high, but these are small things that, you need to kind of look at. And I think, this speaks a lot of volume. But if you're looking at the price of XRP back in the 38.2 fib zone, obviously, we're kind of ranging here, a lot of resistance. But, this is where you want to see the price of XRP holding. And I am, optimistic that, we do see a retest in the 23.6 in the near future. So far, so good. Obviously, we're in a weekend, like I said, more manipulation than usual. But so far, so good. Let's see how this upcoming week plays out. Let me know down below what you guys think. If you have watched this video till now, comment down below. Monday, love you all. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.